What's up everybody, it's Joe with J Blake Photo, and in today's video I want to talk about some of the upgrades that are coming to Apple's Final Cut Pro version 10.4.9 and how that can speed up your workflow and mine. Also a quick note, if you do an entire take without your wireless microphone turned on, it doesn't sound very good. Just a quick reminder, if you like videos like this, go ahead and give me that like button, go ahead and hit thumbs up. It helps me and the channel by telling the YouTube algorithm that this is the right video for you. YouTube uses that to help show more of my content to more people and to make sure that your feed is customized to your preferences. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And while you're there, go ahead and hit the bell, and then it will notify you when I post new content. And if you're into stills photography, go ahead and check me out on Instagram. I am at jblakephoto, and I'm putting all sorts of stills from my videos that I'm doing, which recently has been a lot of landscape work, but I've done portrait work and a lot of other stuff on there, so go ahead and check that out. Now, Apple has made some interesting changes to Final Cut in this release. Now, I edit with Final Cut, and if you don't know some of the terms that we're going to be using in this video, don't worry, I'm going to explain it. Not everyone uses all of these features, but maybe that's because you didn't realize that it would help you, or maybe you just didn't realize how to get to it. So I'm going to tell you how these improvements might help your workflow and how they're going to help my workflow. Glasses are filthy. Now, I like Final Cut because it's got a diverse workflow. It's got a lot of features that are packed in. They're not all right up front, but they're definitely there. And it definitely is on par with the same kind of features that you can get out of Adobe Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. They're not all the same, but many of the features are there. So why don't I use Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve? Adobe Premiere, honestly, it's a subscription fee. So, you know, I like the fact that with Final Cut, I paid once and I get to use it all the time. I don't have to keep paying over and over and over again. And while DaVinci Resolve has a free version, I've never been able to get the hang of that user interface, and I found that especially on my Mac, on my machine, it just doesn't run as quickly as Final Cut. Your mileage may vary, however, and I encourage you to try out both of those apps to see if they work better for you. I'm just a Final Cut person. So one of the biggest changes that we've seen in this release, 10.4.9 of Apple's Final Cut Pro, is Proxy Files. So what is a proxy file? Simply put, it is a re-encoded version of your clip. And it's re-encoded to be easier to skim through and easier to edit, easier on your computer. It acts as a proxy or a stand-in place of your actual clips, which helps make it faster for you to edit your clips. Now, once you have your editing done, you can actually render using the originals. But the proxy files helped you get through the edit faster. Now, until recently, all of your proxy files would have been encoded in Apple's ProRes format. Now, ProRes uses a lot more disk space in some instances than what you'd be getting off your DSLR or your GoPro or your drone. It uses less compression, and it's much easier for most modern computers, especially Macs, to zip through them. You can also create proxies that have no compression, but they are gigantic. They are huge. With Final Cut Pro version 10.4.9, we can now create proxy files using the H.264 codec. If you've never heard of H.264 or you're not really sure what that means, that's okay. H.264 is just a common codec. It's a common format for video. In addition to using a common, easy to work with codec, it also allows you to downsample or down-res your footage down to as much as 1/8 the size. This allows you to make fast and really portable proxy files. Now, this opens up a lot of really cool possibilities. You could create proxies using quarter resolution, say 1080p when you're shooting 4K, for your big 4K footage, and then use that to do all of your editing. So then you could easily edit, say, on a laptop with a moderately sized hard drive and maybe not a super high-end graphics card, while leaving your external, your eGPU, and maybe even your big 4K files on an external NAS or RAID device. Or maybe if you're collaborating on a project, you'd be able to re-encode the proxy files in these smaller clips and then give them to a team member or an editor and have them do the work with you or for you and then deliver you back the final edit. Then you can link that back up to your full resolution, super, high bit rate ProRes or H.265 or 4K footage, and then you can actually render using those clips, but the edit was done quick and easy on a portable, small, lightweight machine. Now, the other thing that's changed with Proxy Files is that when you were editing with Proxy Files before, and I'm sure any of you who have experience with Final Cut have probably seen this if you've tried to use Proxy Files, is that if you used proxies, you had to use proxies everywhere. It was a all or not situation. Well, now you can actually pick and choose. So some of your clips can have proxies, some of them can't. I'll give you an example from me personally. My Canon EOS R that I'm shooting on now produces H.264 video in 4K, which I don't really have much of a difficult time editing. But the H.265 video that comes out of my Mavic 2 Pro and my Hero 8 Black GoPro can be a little more difficult. They can be a little more choppy, especially if I have them on an external drive. So I wouldn't necessarily take the time to re-encode the footage out of my EOS R, but I might out of my drone or the GoPro, and then I want to be able to see them both side by side. You couldn't do that before. Now, with Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, you can. And for folks who are going to be using the new EOS R5 or R6 cameras with their super heavy compression to fit all of that color data in there, this will be super helpful because then you'll be able to edit this footage remotely, maybe using a MacBook or MacBook Pro, and then come back to your super high horsepower device and do the rendering there. Okay, moving on from proxies, although that is a big piece for me, are the social media features that have been added into 10.4.9. Now, if you're creating projects for multiple outputs, meaning your plan is to create something for YouTube, maybe in the 16:9 format, for Instagram, maybe also in 16:9, but now vertical, or 16:10, or 1:1, or 4:5, there's a myriad of different formats that you might want to do. Well, you don't want to edit your footage 5 or 6 different times. So what this allows you to do is create different versions of your project that can use overlays to figure out how best to fit your shots into those dimensions. But the way that Final Cut is going to work to help you in this situation is using the Smart Conform feature. So you'll be able to drop an overlay onto your footage. So you can create a copy of your existing project. Let's say you've been editing in 16:9 for YouTube, and now you want to work on a 1:1 for Instagram. So you can copy your project and tell it that your plan is to go to a 1:1 format. As long as you have the overlay there, it'll go straight there, and it will actually use the Smart Conform tool to figure out exactly where the subject is in each of your shots and align it in the middle. It'll do this automatically for each of your clips. Now, you might still want to go in and tweak some of this. I don't know if it's going to be perfect right off the bat. I've got to do some experimentation myself, but that is a huge improvement over the social media options that we had previously, which were basically none. Just remember with this that if you've got a super wide shot with a lot of action in the shot that is really wide in the frame, it's not going to magically reshoot your clip. You will want to make sure whenever possible when you're out shooting, if you've got multiple output formats that you plan on rendering to try and do your best to keep that in mind when you're framing your shots. Also in the social media mode, any overlays that you have, any text that's in there will be automatically moved to the best position, or what Final Cut thinks is the best position inside of that new overlay. Some other changes that are coming that are a little less impactful, at least for my workflow, are some 360-degree stabilization options that are going to be in there, as well as better working environments for working with 360-degree footage. I don't have a 360 camera, although I have been looking at one. I think that might be a fun tool to add to the mountain biking kit, as well as some sorting options in the project view, crossfading of separate audio clips, and then also support for editing things like exposure, color temperature, and ISO when working with raw video footage. That's super great stuff. I'm excited that Final Cut Pro is continuing to get updated, even though I haven't had to buy a new copy in quite some time, versus Adobe Premiere, where you keep having to pay every single month. Don't get me wrong, Adobe Premiere is a super powerful tool. I used it for a long time, but for what I'm doing, for simple, fun, creative projects, Final Cut really is the way to go for me, especially since I'm on a Mac and it just performs so much better. Let me know down in the comments, what's the feature that's missing for you? What's the thing that you want the most out of Final Cut Pro? Can I just tell you my number one? I want folders inside the projects. I don't like using keywords to divide my stuff up. I know it's pretty much the same thing, but I like folders. It's what I'm used to. It's what Premiere does. It's the one feature that I would love to have come over from Premiere into Final Cut Pro. But other than that, I really, really like Final Cut. But let me know down in the comments, what's the kind of thing that you'd be looking for out of Final Cut Pro as an enhancement? And don't just say faster. I'm really curious what you would say. Anyway, those are the basics on the update for 10.4.9. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know what your favorite new feature is, or what other features you are looking for in a 10.4.10 or 10.5 update, maybe. I'd love to hear that. But I have a ton of editing to do, lots and lots of footage to get through, and I'm excited to start making proxies and playing with it. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.